Well, it's the gloomy morning after the disastrous night before. Bill, Germany 5, Scotland 1. It could not have been any worse, could it? We're smiling, but geez, man, it was hard.
I'm grimacing. It's one of those ones where you wake up and you go, oh, it's a lovely morning out there, and you go, oh no, what happened last night? And it was just, you're right, it couldn't have been worse. It's very hard to find the words to. I mean, I'm terrible for. I don't like listening to people's noise after games about what we could have done, what we should have done. It's just one of these ones you want to go, it's done, forget it, get it out of my system, and try and move on.
Unfortunately, we need to try and pick through the bones of it a little bit, because it just wasn't good enough.
No, it was terrible.
We've spent feels like months building this team up, and the expectations what we're going to expect in that game last night, and for whatever reason the boys just didn't turn up. It was from start to finish pretty much disastrous. What's your overriding feeling about the whole thing? Because it's just abject disappointment for me. Expected so much better.
Do you know, stood there, watched them. These things don't count in the game, singing the anthem, and they looked really up for it. They didn't look nervous. They looked.
They did, yeah.
They were pumping the words out, and I thought, okay, this is good. Let's get started. The Germans, we turned round and we went, oh great, we're going to be kicking towards our fans second half.
Right.
This is great. And the Germans kicked off and did something totally Scottish second division. They knocked it back to centre half. We were whacked it into our box, and we kind of half won the header. And we looked at each other and went, that's what they would expect us to do. And we never get out of there. Within a minute or so, they had the chance where Musiala was through and Angus Gunn saved with his head, and it was offside. But we just never. Andy Robertson get caught on one side, Tony Ralston was getting caught on the other side. We couldn't get on the ball. It just, everything was wrong.
We look at the team lineups. I mean, I was saying all last week I thought Ryan Christie would play, and that proved to be right. And I questioned whether Callum, because I was so convinced that Ryan Christie would play, I questioned whether Callum McGregor would be the guy that drops out. Because for the life of me, I just could not foresee a situation where Billy Gilmour didn't play.
No,
I just couldn't foresee that.
Me neither.
And yet, because it was the same in the last Euros against the Czechs at Hampden. And yet, history seemed to repeat itself. Now, I don't think for a minute if Billy Gilmour had started that game, things would have been a whole lot different, because there were so many other players off it. But was that a big call for you, Bill? And was that a surprising call for you?
It was a very surprising call. We heard it about, before we heard the team, we kind of heard from one or two places that he wasn't going to be playing. I'm the same. Now, we talked about the social media response to it. We talked the debate about McGregor, Christie, you know, the sort of 5 into 4. And there's a few people said, I wouldn't have Billy Gilmour on the team, but generally people said, Billy will play. He's the best guy we have on the ball. His positional sense is brilliant. He's got his head in a swivel, the whole thing. So when he didn't play, now you're right, that if there was one thing missing from the game last night and it'd been that, you could have blamed it on it, but it was far more than that. However, even in the first 5 minutes, I get the feeling Billy might have been the only one that could have said, give me the ball in a difficult situation, and I'll take it away. However, he wasn't picked. By the time he came on in the second half, the game was gone. You know, there's nothing he could do to change the game. It was a big call, and it was one of many things about the night that I just found really baffling.
I think the first goal was crucial as well. Now, when you end up losing 5, you can trace it back to whatever you like, but Angus Gunn's got to do better for that first goal. Does not. He's been so good for Scotland. I feel quite bad criticising him, because I think he's been terrific. But for that first goal, he's got a strong handset, and yet the ball still creeps in his post.
But it's one of several things we should do better. Tony Cruz was getting far too long. Okay, creates room for himself. We didn't get close enough to him for the crossfield ball out. Andy Robertson didn't get, I don't think, quick enough out to Kimmich. The ball comes back in, we don't pick up Florian Wirtz. He clips it nicely for the corner, but you're absolutely right. Angus Gunn's, 7'9", whatever he is, and he goes down low and he gets his hand on it, and it should be, but he puts it against the post and into the goal, and I don't think it was good enough, and it made us look weak from the start.
Did we talk the players up too much? Because listen, last week I think we're all trying to be positive. We all want to be positive. Steve Clarke goes on about negative Normans. That's not what we've been doing as a press, as our paper. Certainly, we've been building the guys up, but have we built them up too much? Are we expecting too much of them, or should guys like Andy Robertson be doing better than that environment? Should John McGinn, Ryan Christie, should these guys be doing better? Or are we expecting too much from them?
In all the sections of that question, there's yes all the way through, right? So we've got a choice in our game. We can listen to what they're saying, and we can say, okay, that's what the boys are saying, let's report that back home, let's get behind them. Or we can say, aye, Andy Robertson and John McGinn, whoever says this, but we think they're rotten. But I don't want to be the guy that says before we kick a ball, by the way, we're not good enough. I think we are good enough individually. Robertson, McTominay, McGinn, Christie, McGregor, blah blah blah, to do better than we did last night. And I think the big test now is that they go away, they get their anger out of their system, and they have to come back against Switzerland Wednesday night. And I think now it's a point is the absolute minimum. A win would be fantastic, but we now have to say to ourselves,
I think we need to win it, Bill. I'm telling you, I think Switzerland's going to be the easier game out of the two. I think this is the one we need to win.
But this comes down to now attitude, and this comes down now to, this is when we find out about, we've heard all about the tight-knit mentality and the family and all in this together. This is when we'll find out whether we've been sold a pup or not.
Yeah.
And I don't think MD's tried to pull the wool over. I don't think they're saying it's a great squad when it's not a great squad, when it's a great camp it's not a great camp. I don't believe that for a minute. I think they really are a great tight-knit squad.
Yeah.
However, they now need to prove that on the pitch come Wednesday night in Cologne.
I almost think it was so bad that might actually work to their advantage, because there has to be a reaction now. If it was a 1 or 2-0 defeat and we played okay, then you would be kind of, I don't know. It was so bad, everyone was so bad that there has to be a genuine, I think John McGinn mentioned it last night, there has to be a real reaction to that over the next couple of days, and then the game on Wednesday, because if we play like that again, Switzerland will turn us over.
Absolutely.
It'll be the same thing again, and we'll be going home before it's over before the third game, you know.
Because, you know, for anybody that doesn't know, goal difference doesn't come into it in the group itself when you're separating the teams within the groups, head to head that matters. If, however, we finished with 3 points and we were trying to sneak into the last 16 on a 3-point basis, it will come down to goal difference.
Yeah.
So, two things we have to hope is that we can score a couple of goals against Switzerland and Hungary, but also that Germany then go and batter Switzerland and Hungary. Now, that's not a given. I think Germany looked a really good team last night. Although we were a very bad team last night. They've got goals in them without a doubt. They could have had another 2 or 3 against us last night, but for VAR and various other things. So that's the two things we look for. We need to look. Kai Havertz told us last night we've not started yet. This is just that, and if that's the case, brilliant. But we have to do this for us. Lee John said last night, says you can look at individual things that happened in the game, but he said there are experienced guys like myself in this team who have to go and look at ourselves and come back and do better.
There's going to be changes to the team. There has to be changes to the team. Billy Gilmour, for me, has to be the first name in the team sheet.
Scott McKenna probably earns a start ahead of Grant Hanley.
Yeah, he's going to come in for Porteous, I think. But I think a crucial part of the team has to be the right side, the right wing back role. Now Ross McCrory is coming into the squad probably to play, but I think we have to go more positive with that. And I think this could be a night for James Forrest. I mean, he's come into the squad late, but do you agree with that, Bill? You think we have to go more positive, and we'll talk more about the game as we build up to it. But there's going to be changes, and I think he's someone who has to be in Steve Clarke's thinking.
I actually wonder, on the basis of what we tried in Gibraltar, whether there might be maybe a switch towards playing with an attacking wing back or going to a 4, because he knows that he has to chase games. That was one of the reasons for taking Gibraltar, was to try and find systems that work out of our normal shape. And I think yes, James Forrest could be. You could play. We talked about it during the week. You could play Ryan Christie there. You know, you could play Jack Hendry out there. If you, I think I felt really sorry.
I felt sorry. Positive, it has to be a more attack minded.
I felt
Forrest he was great towards the end of the season. I just feel as though he could be the one, because I don't think, with the best will in the world to Ross McCrory, he didn't look particularly comfortable.
He's also not a massive upgrade on Tony Ralston. I felt sorry for Tony Ralston last night. I thought he looked a bit rabbity headlights. I think when the ball came to him, he looked almost scared to be on the ball, and maybe that's not a surprise with the amount of football he plays. Doesn't play a huge amount of football. Steve Clarke talks about how he plays in a possession-based team in training, but training's different from matches.
Tony Ralston coming into that game last night, Bill, needed the other guys running about him to be better, and he didn't get any help whatsoever. So as much as Tony Ralston didn't have a great game by any stretch of the imagination, the guys running about him didn't help him.
Well, so that triangle, we kept getting locked into this horrible wee triangle on that side of the park, where Angus Gunn was playing the ball to Ryan Porteous, who was playing it out to Tony Ralston, who didn't really have many options. It was going back to Porteous, it was going back in. and that was the area where I thought we just got completely. I mean, their press against us all over the park was tremendous, but in that area especially, they completely suffocated us.
Yeah. What did you finally, Bill? I mean, what did you make of Steve Clarke post match? He was quite touchy the way he spoke about the game, which you can understand to a certain extent. But he brought up, or he was asked about the Austin McPhee incident. He kind of shot that down, tried to shoot it down quite quickly. He was asked about stats. Didn't want to talk about stats, but then mentioned stats. What did you make of what he's had to say?
I felt as if he was a little bit shell-shocked. I felt as if he didn't want to be there, which is absolutely fine. Nobody wants to. None of us wanted to be asking the questions. He didn't want to be answering the questions. The Austin McPhee thing, you know, he had a little altercation over the way a free kick was taken. I think he should have said, "Look, it happened. We got on with it. We're big boys. Carry on." But to kind of say, "Well, I don't remember that happening," maybe showed a sign of just how tense he was on the night.
Yeah.
The stats thing, I mean, if you look at our stats, they're terrible. But to say, by the way, our XG was whatever, but I don't care about stats. Listen, I think he just wanted to take it up the road last night. The boys all wanted to take it up the road last night. Usually in the mixed zone where we wait for player interviews, they'll come through and you'll have a chat. They'll say, "Listen, I'm not going to talk, but how you doing? Heads down, how they went in." Who can blame them?
Yeah. Listen, it's that bad. We've not even got cakes this morning. We've got the croissants. You've got a pan of chocolate or something, typically. Yeah. So I don't know. That's how bad it is, Bill. We'll not even get slabs of chocolate cake.
The cafe didn't sell humble pie.
No, that sums it up. Listen, for all the news and views in the next couple of days, stick with Sunsport. We'll be continuing the podcast again tomorrow, and hopefully things will look a little bit better by that point.